You rocked it.
What up, virtual
Hey.
people? Welcome to episode 95 of VCR Redux. We take your favorite franchises out of the analog era and bring them back to 2023. I'm your host, pop culture punk Chris Stiles, joined as always by my co-host with the most, film professor Ian Klink.
How you doing, everybody?
And we have two radical guests on the show tonight. First up, the third leg of our VCR tripod himself. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine. Mac Daddy Mickey Torres is back on the show.
What's up, everyone?
And rounding out this righteous crew, VCR veteran coming to you all the way from the West Coast, where she runs an audio and post-production studio, produced the upcoming Angela the Sleepaway Camp documentary, and co-hosts the brand new Spooky Picture Show podcast. Melanie Mullen is back on the show.
Yes, Melanie.
Yay!
We miss you, Melanie. Thank you so much for coming back. We are here today to get electrified in 3D for the revenge at SeaWorld. And this time, it's on Porpoise. That's right. This world needs nothing, possibly nothing more than Jaws 5, Jurassic Shark. And we're here to give it to you. But before we can bring back Bruce the Almighty Shark, we need to talk about how Jaws came into our lives and what we love about it. And of course, that includes everyone watching the live chat as well. Was it Love at First Laserdisc, Vital VHS? Hit us up in the chat and let us know how Jaws came into your lives.
You're proud of that, aren't you? You spent all day writing that script. You are so
I've been doing
proud.
that same script for like 20 episodes now.
Yeah, just insert movie here.
Insert movie.
Yes, the script doesn't change much, but I actually got through it once today, which
Your
is
shirts,
you know,
your shirts don't change much. What is talking about?
I have
Get
like
outta
7
here.
or 8 of these at least.
I
They
smelly-
make the rotation.
All right.
They make the rotation.
You stank, smelly man.
All right, getting back on target here. Melanie, do you remember the first time you watched Jaws?
Well, Jaws predates me by about 13 years. So it definitely wasn't in a theater. I'm
So you're born in a post-revenge world.
I don't think I even rented it. I think I just I think it came out with like the it was like the double VHS, like maybe in the late 90s or something. I don't remember. It was like a double VHS.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I had that. And I can't remember
this. I think it was in 2000 for the 20th anniversary or 25th anniversary.
It had a behind the scene. It was one of the first behind the scenes VHS. I know exactly the one you're talking about. Yep.
I had that, and I feel like that may have been the first time I ever saw it. Was just because I don't know if my mom saw it somewhere and just bought it because I was getting really into horror movies, or but I definitely saw it on video. That was how I first saw it, and it was probably at that point had already been out for over like 20 years.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. At that point, I'm pretty sure that's around the time of the 25th anniversary. I could be wrong. Then maybe they did something for the 20th in the mid 90s, but I'm pretty sure because they like gave Jaws a huge push at 25. Like they kind of thought like they did everything but a special edition theatrical release, you know.
No, you're
they
right.
saved that for ET, you know.
I'm pretty sure it was the 25th anniversary is what it was.
Yeah, on that version, Jaws, they took out the teeth of Jaws because it was too violent, and they replaced it with keychains.
With candy corn.
Yeah, you know.
Make Jaws friendlier. Mickey, do you remember the first? I'm curious about the first time Mickey watched Jaws. When was this? What year? How old?
Dude,
you know, give us some facts here.
Don't even remember the first time. I know it wasn't even, and it wasn't movies. It wasn't VHS. I don't even think it was HBO. It might have been like some cable
like
channel
network or something.
Yeah,
okay.
Something. Truth be told, like I actually remember seeing a lot of the Piranha movies before the Jaws movie.
Yeah,
it's like seeing
I'm a little partial to the Piranha movies. Like, you know, I know that they're not, you know, I mean, some people will say like the Jaws movies are like, oh, they're so good, and the story, this and that, and I'm like, it's a fucking shark eating people. I mean, come on, that's okay, and it has some good actors in it, you know. Okay, I'll give you that. But the Piranha movies were just more fun.
Well, there's our barometer for when we pitch tonight. If Mickey is just like thinks Jaws is stupid, we got to come up with something that even Mickey would want to go see in theaters when we get to pitching. That is. But before we get there, of course, Ian, I want to know about the first time you watched Jaws.
So what I remember, and I've talked about it on the show before, but I remember my sister going to Slagle's video store in Iowa City, and it was one of those. I loved this store. It was a TV repair. They sold TVs and electronic. It was like
yeah, it's like Nerd Wonderland. Yeah,
was this in the 90s?
Yeah, it was the
So
it was early 90s.
In my mind, I'm making like a digital map or like a mental map of locations in Iowa in the 90s.
That's right.
I have the gas station pizza place. I have Slagle's.
Come after you, dude.
I have come and get it or whatever like that. Come and go.
Come and go. Come and go. The best breakfast pizza ever. No, so Slagle's was kind of it was a poor man's Best Buy. And so you go in, the front of the store was all electronics, stereos. I actually do remember they actually sold like stereo systems with the. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of and in the back of the store, the guy had invested in a VHS rental business. So the back of the store was just all like a whole row of home video. And so my sister rented Jaws, and I remember her freaking out in the living room because I wasn't allowed to watch it, quote unquote, because it was too scary. And I remember her screaming, like, because it was the famous headshot, right? With the guy comes out, the head comes out of the boat, the big scream in that movie. And I watched the rest of Jaws because I ran to see what she was doing, and she didn't want to watch it alone, so we watched Jaws together. So that was my memory. That was my memory, like finishing Jaws with my sister, and then because if you're just talking about Jaws, we got to talk about the others too. Because I will absolutely 100% say the first experience of Jaws that I remember though was this one right here. I remember my babysitter watching Jaws: The Revenge.
Wow.
Like
did Ian freeze?
Probably 89, 90 or something like that. Because I remember. No, did I freeze?
Yeah, we did a little bit. Yeah, we lost it like 89, 90, something like that.
Yeah, so it was 89, and I remember my babysitter watching Jaws: The Revenge because I remember Sean getting his arm bitten off. I watched that scene of Jaws: The Revenge.
The opening.
The opening. I just remember that vividly. And then USA Up All Night. USA gave me Jaws 2 and Jaws 3. And thank every studio executive that ever worked at USA for doing this, because they played Jaws 3 like they were going out of business.
And it was fair, USA did this. We've talked about this. I feel like the same thing last week, where they showed those Up All Night, some of those Up All Night movies during the day too. Because I remember nursing hangovers, watching like Jaws 2 and 3 or Jaws 3 and 4, like, or maybe all three or something. You know what I mean? At my friend's house, like specifically at my buddy Brian Marks' dad's house. Like he had this big screen in the living room, and I would crash on the couch, and I'd wake up and like, what's on TV? Like fucking Jaws sequels. Okay, like I'm not moving anyways. Like, the revenge meaning is twofold today. But I will get to my first time watching Jaws, the first movie, in a second. Want to see what's going on in the live chat first, though. I see Monica Thyman in there, Alex Bonafonte, Oscar Toronzo, Dustin Nino of Retro Fiend Radio, of course, makers of the finest martial arts and canon docs on the internet. Kyle, let's see. Right. Also, the man in the live chat, Mr. Kyle Camper, has a GoFundMe for his one of his animals is in dire need of help. So anything you guys can do to donate would be awesome. Really appreciate it. If you're not sure, you can, get in touch with me or anyone at Fandom Spotlite. Anything you can do really help out. Let's see. Alex Bonafonte, Oscar Toronzo, what's going on here? Of course, I was like 6 years ago, seeing it for the first time, those first ever memories etched into my brain. Watched it on TV later when I was 10 or 11. Who can forget the music score? Of course, yeah, John Williams, probably the most famous piece of movie music ever, because you
Oh,
can
yeah.
hear like 2 notes and you just know it's Jaws.
More memorable to me, just to cut you off a second before I forget, more memorable to me about Jaws was the Different Strokes episode where they went to like Universal Studios or whatever like that.
Get out of here.
And
Get out of here.
The Jaws and everything like that. And they went around. Knight Rider was on there. Like, Arnold and Sam, like, they hid out in the kit and it was going to get, blown up and stuff like that.
I didn't want to get into this until later.
Only you.
But Universal Studios, like, I really feel like I missed something by not getting to go there in like the late 80s to early 90s.
Yeah. Oh,
Jaws! Like, I'm telling you, that like
was the
between
best.
Jaws, King Kong, Back to the Future, and
Yep.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kid, like, I could have lived my childhood dreams and grown up to be a completely different person. But
I went there in 2000. I went there in 2003, either 2002, 2003. I got to do all the rides right before they changed it to Harry Potter World. I got to go on all
98, and the only thing I got to do was Back to the Future.
Really?
I was like too old to do the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids thing, and I wasn't there with friends or anything like that. Like,
oh man, I got to do King Kong. I did
never been to
King
Universal.
Kong, Back to the Future. Oh, it was great. Back in the day, Universal was great.
Yeah.
I still feel upset I never got to see Jaws pop out of the water in real life. But anyway, also in the live chat, Dustin Nino says the first Jaws I saw was the one with the banana boat getting eaten and blood all over it. I believe
that's Revenge.
Is 3.
That's Revenge.
No, there's Revenge. You're right. Yeah, it's Revenge. I watched them all. I did a Jaws marathon the last, starting last night into today. I fell asleep for part of 2, but can you really blame me? I mean, come on.
No, I can't blame you on that.
How can you fall asleep to 2? Come on.
It was fucking it was like 4:30 in the fucking morning. That's how I fell asleep to 2. I'm a late.
Well, I wouldn't do that, but here's the thing. I will say this, and let's just get into it, you guys. Let's just get into it.
Well, we first got to find out when his first memory.
Well,
he doesn't give a shit. He wants to get into it.
Look, I'm just saying, like,
I'll squeeze it out.
I'll say this one sentence: these movies have every right to be terrible, and they have every right to not work. But damn it, there's something in the sauce that works in these movies. I will say that. There's something in that
is
formula.
The most studio executive shit you've ever said, but
That's
I
right.
kind of like it. It's there's some truth to it, That's what's shocking about that for me. But anyway, my entry into the Jaws franchise, like many people, occurred on VHS in the mid to late 80s. I was a toddler, and this was like the first scary movie that I would ever watch willingly. And like, I just have good memories of watching it with my brother and sister and cousin. It was like one that, it didn't seem like it had excitement and all this stuff, and it would scare us, but it wouldn't haunt your dreams too much. Although for a long time, I was afraid that Jaws was going to eat me, like even when I was in a pool. Little things, like if the little Polaris went by my foot, I would like freak out. You know what I mean? Just like things that it took me a while to sort of realize, okay, there's no sharks in the pool. Like, I'm pretty safe there. But yeah, and again, like, not to harp on the Universal thing from before, but for somehow, like, my memory is this thing that's etched into my memory of seeing that early Universal Studios like trailer with like the words, the letters coming across, and inside each letter is a different scene from a movie, and it's like Jaws and like Back to the Future and all these different movies.
Oh yeah.
And like, I just always remember pointing out, like, that's Jaws, like that's Back to the Future, that's this, that's that. And
but
I don't know.
Don't you dare tell me you knew it was Battlestar Galactica until
I didn't know what the fuck.
later.
I still wouldn't recognize.
Nobody knew what that was. Nobody knew what that was until like you finally watch old Battlestar Galactica, and you're like, oh, that was Universal. Oh, okay.
But the sequels, the idea that there was like many Jaws films, I think really became etched into my brain in a sort of similar story to yours, Ian. I was at a mom and pop video store in 1990 or 91 maybe. So I'm like 5, 6, 7, something like that. But it's Top Video. It's this really cool, like funky red wire shelves place, mom and pop video store. And I remember just sort of being stopped, like walking in the aisle, because my dad would always go like watch the Laserdisc machine. They had like a Laserdisc like home. They were trying to sell you high-end theater shit too, so they had like a projector with the Laserdisc. My dad would, every time we rent videos, my dad would just go back there and watch like half a fucking James Bond movie while I wandered the aisles. But it was fun, and I always loved it.
It was a retail store, Melanie. You got to give him some credit. I mean, I don't know if they would be showing the good stuff on there.
Well, I remember I went back there with him once, and it was like a Pink Panther cartoon, and I was like, "This rules!" And then like a James Bond movie started, and I was like, "Fuck this!" Like, taking away.
Somebody out there is holding on to their Pink Panther Laserdisc cartoon collection with pride.
Was the movie on Laserdisc?
No, it was a James Bond that had a Pink Panther cartoon at the front of it, like kind of like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids had a Roger Rabbit cartoon at the front of it. You know?
Oh. Really?
Like some weird home video release. Yeah, maybe it was a VHS, maybe it was Laserdisc. I don't know, but I felt very bait and switch.
They're both owned
in my life.
They're owned by the same company.
Anyway,
so I guess
so. Young ass Chris is standing there, and I'm looking at all the Jaws movies side by side by side. Those beautiful VHS hand painted covers, and I'm like, oh my god, like these seem ridiculous. Like you know, like even as a little kid, I'm like very critical. I'm like, it's personal, like.
It's personal. Was
how could it?
This time?
Like,
this time it's personal. Chris.
The other times, yes, not so much. But you
know,
other
place it was wrong place. Other movies it was wrong place, wrong time. But this time
it was personal.
It's personal.
Yeah, it was happenstance.
He said, "Michael Caine, I'm coming after your ass."
That's why I was like tempted to call this like Jaws 5 grudge match. I was like, what's more than personal? Like, how can you get like I was looking for an adjective to title this episode, and I was really struggling, you know. So
he was
Jurassic
he was
Shark.
looking for Murray Hamilton, but he couldn't find him.
You know, it's my dumb mashups. Well, one I thought of a million years ago, because one of my favorite movies is Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. So I always thought just Jaws 6 with Caroline from Don't Tell Mom, and this time it's personnel. That's the only like silly stupid play on that I could ever think of. But yeah, Melanie shakes her head like I didn't miss being on this show at all.
I'm not giving you a laugh.
It was so good that Ian froze somehow. So but yeah, like I said, eventually I nursed some hangovers and ingested all the Jaws sequels, and you know.
Did you ever do this?
Did I?
This is interesting.
You keep freezing, my man.
What's interesting is waiting for Ian to come.
Yeah.
Am I back? Am I back?
Now you are.
This internet, I'm telling you, this internet. I gotta fix something about this.
You sound like a grandpa. Like this internet thing. Who knows if it'll catch on?
I'm trying to get on the interwebs and talk to my friends, but I can't.
I am. It's weird. So this I used to do. I used to think this when I did all 4 movies. I used to think, okay, the first one, it's the dad. The like I'm going off the sharks. It's like it was the dad. Then the second one was the kid. And then the third one was the mom.
Oh.
And then for some odd reason, Revenge, I'm like, oh, like for some odd reason, I actually thought that these were a family of sharks.
I actually kind of thought that too.
I mean, isn't that kind of what it is? Like we saw the shark die 3 other times. So
well, in the third one, it is like a mother
blown up
child, or you know.
I know, but in my 10-year-old mind, that's what my brain was saying. Like that's how these movies connected.
I've always looked at it that way, is that it's just like, you know, these sharks are like the mafia, and they're like, you kill my father, I kill everything you love. You know,
and the McCoys. It's the Bruces. It's the Bruces versus the Brodies.
You kill my father, I'm coming after Keith Gordon.
I mean, we are truly giving like we are truly giving like sharks a little bit more intelligence than they actually.
Well, sharks are very smart. I don't know how that applies to Revenge.
But do you obviously then what you're saying is you know how it applies to psychic connections.
Yes.
Like that motherfucker right there. I'm gonna get him in the next picture.
Shark goes over to a payphone at the end of the Revenge. It's done. Click.
Oh my god, I would love these movies so much more if Joe Pesci was doing the voice of Jaws.
Well, we can agree that everything is better with Joe Pesci. You know,
I'm gonna eat these kids in the boat. Who? These Utes in the boat. You know, these Utes.
Smile, you muttering, stuttering prick, ya.
What's so funny? How am I funny? Funny how? Funny how? Tell me.
I'm gonna jump on your boat. I'm gonna kill your captain. Well, okay, so I do want to.
Can we make an animated Jaws? That's my sequel, animated Jaws.
With Joe Pesci. Not there yet. We're not there yet.
We're not there yet. Yeah.
So, wait. All right. I think we will all agree the first one is a masterpiece. It changed cinema history. They became the block, but like everybody knows the story of that.
It invented, we all know that it invented the summer blockbuster.
Yeah, but do you like the sequels?
Okay, so 2. Let's start with 2 here. I'm going to go with somehow 2 manages to be the worst of the sequels because it's the most meh.
What?
Like the other ones are spectacularly bad when they're bad, but 2 is just like, I don't think
trying to be serious.
I don't know you, man.
2 is the classic definition of old Hollywood. Let's remake the first one again, but less good. Let's leave out all the good parts and memorable shit and good writing and good characters and blah, blah, blah. Like, Roy Scheider looked like he was fucking miserable the whole time, and he was.
He was, yeah. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I just think it's the most meh of all the sequels. The best thing in that movie is Keith Gordon. There's way too many teen characters, and it's just a mess.
Murray Hamilton.
They electrocute him and they blow him up. I mean, like, come on. You're just trying, like, so hard, you know?
He needs a helicopter.
He needs a helicopter.
He does. But I say I'm with Melanie. I love 2. 2 is like
really 2. You like that's your.
I'm not. I didn't say.
Oh, it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite of the sequels.
Okay. But you like 2 though.
But it's a I feel like I've always thought it was a solid sequel. Like,
yes, yeah,
it wasn't. You know, it's not like The Howling 2 where you're like, like what the fuck.
I'd probably rather watch The Howling 2 for its
Ginger Snaps 2.
Christopher Lee can do no harm.
Mickey, shame on you. Nobody talks about Ginger Snaps. What is wrong with you?
Ginger Snaps is a good flick.
Ginger Snaps is a great flick.
I have no idea. I know that's a thing that a lot of people watch. I don't even know what the fuck it is, and I really don't care.
Get on that, sir.
Ginger Snaps is actually very good.
See,
I like old Coke better than new Coke.
I like Jaws 3, and I'm saying it. I like Jaws 3D. Because for those of you that don't know, Jaws 3 was actually Jaws 3D, and it came out 3D, but the stupidness of Universal for never releasing a Blu-ray of Jaws 3 in 3D, because for years you've just seen this really stupid shark slowly come towards the screen in animation and just glass just shatter out of nowhere.
I remember watching that scene. I think Jaws 3 was on TV, and I don't remember how old I was, but I was pretty young. And I remember and even at this like stage in my life, I remember seeing that scene and it was like just like
and laughing.
And it was like tap with his nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just all
I was like, well,
breaks,
that doesn't seem right.
And you got this really terrible tail, like,
and when he gets blown up, like, you know, the teeth and everything, and you're like, what's going on here? They're like floating in the water, like.
Yeah,
but how sad are we missing this in theater? Like, how cool would it have been? Like that's the thing. That if I've ever been jealous in filmdom, it's that I was not around in '83 to see Jaws 3D in the theater, because you can probably bash the movie all you want, but with 3D glasses, that probably is kind of a cool movie.
Jaws 3D is sort of
was Friday the 13th 3D good?
Oh my god, the best.
That's
it's
okay.
Fun.
Well,
it's fun to see that in 3D. It
is. Yeah, but see, Paramount. Paramount released Friday the 13th Part 3D with 3D glasses.
With 3D glasses,
of course, because you could release that movie 10,000 ways, and horror fans will buy every edition. That's you know, Jaws like isn't quite.
I would have figured like Jaws
would
but you wouldn't buy it to watch that in 3D? I would totally show my class Jaws 3D with 3D glasses. That'd been amazing.
I mean,
plus,
even
it's got
though
honestly,
I think
Louis Gossett Jr. Even though I'm not a fan of the franchise,
just for the
I would like to see it in 3D.
I'm not saying this just to disagree, but I think
Yes,
Jaws 3 in 3D or whatever the fuck, Jaws 3D is one of the best cases for why the 3D movement of the early 80s needed to die right fucking then and right fucking there. And I'm sorry, but like 3D is shit. It's always going to be shit until maybe stereoscopic comes into play. Then I'll watch Jaws.
Let's go do a
3D.
different show. Like, let's get out of here.
I mean, here's the thing.
Mickey, you can come with us if you want.
I do not enjoy 3D. I don't enjoy 3D.
It's a cheap gimmick.
It's very gimmicky. I mean, I do enjoy watching like the old like 80s 3D just because it's so bad.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, even Friday the 13th Part 3, which is a much lower budget than Jaws 3D, like photographically, it's not like, oh, this looks like Drek. It's like, okay, well, it's a competent like cinematographer handling the 3D, which is not an easy feat. However, in Jaws 3, like there are blatantly shots that are just out of focus in the movie, and like that's not cool. The whole movie just looks like shit in 2D because of all the effort that went into the 3D and like the imperfections of the technology at the time.
Now I got it.
The movie, you know, kind of operates like a slow slog, I think, a little bit, you know, where the camera might have moved a little bit more, could have been a little more dynamic. You know, I'm not just like it doesn't exactly have THX quality video.
That is what you're doing. Stop it. That is what you're now
because the opticals look like shit too. And I think that's where it really fell apart, is when you have optical compositing in 3D technology at that time. It really makes, you know, but it's not just that, because just standard scenes look like shit to me too. I don't know.
Well, but
I love the movie. Don't get me, I'm not shitting on Jaws.
Well, there's a reason.
I just hate the 3D of it. I wish it was.
With all that being said, I love the movie.
Well,
I do. I love fucking Dennis Quaid.
I will also give you this.
You know, Louis Gossett.
Jaws 3D did have one of the worst pan and scan, you know, scope aspect ratio to 4.3 ratio of any movie in the planet. So I give it. But do you guys know the story of Jaws 2.0 or 2.5? No. You know the story. So the reason we have Jaws 3D is because Joe Dante was actually going to do a movie.
Jaws 3 People 0.
Yes, Jaws 3 People 0 was going to be National Lampoon sponsored Jaws, and Zucker and Brown were going to actually produce it. And like the script's actually online if all of you want to go read it. It's literally Airplane meets Jaws.
That sounds amazing.
Oh, I would love that.
It would, and actually Joe Dante was like really close to doing it, and basically, and even Spielberg, because Joe Dante and Spielberg are friends. Spielberg was actually like gave the blessing, like, yes, please go spoof. You know, like he gave they were all going to do it, but then Zucker and Brown got scared that they were going to kill the franchise, because as we all know, when you go to spoof, you're killing, you know, you're killing whatever momentum you have. And Universal basically said, hey, we might have a few more of these in us. And so they scrapped Jaws 3 People 0 and went with Jaws 3D. And the only reason we have this bad boy, Jaws the Revenge, is because there was a contractual thing at Universal to do a fourth Jaws movie based on Jaws 3. Wow. So, I mean, Jaws 3 People 0 would have been a better approach to take in the series. Probably from a more financial standpoint.
It would have been Sharknado before Sharknado.
Yes, honestly, truthfully, it would have been, you know, but instead we got Lauren Gray friggin' getting on a boat. What was it? What?
Isn't it Lorraine Gary?
Lauren
Gray.
Lauren Gray.
Lauren Gray.
Lauren Gray.
Sorry, we both got it wrong.
All right, so Lauren Green from Bonanza gets on this boat. And freaking the shark jumps in the air and impales itself.
That's where you get jumped the shark.
No, that comes from Happy Days.
I know that comes from Happy Days. But it's funny.
That's just beautiful. Come on.
I'll tell you what.
I needed more Murray Hamilton in this movie.
I got a fever, and the cure is Murray Hamilton.
Not even Michael Caine and Mario Van Peebles can save this movie. They're,
Mario Van Peebles.
They should have had the movie be about him.
Lance Guest's best performance.
Oh, better than what's it? The Last Starfighter.
Last Starfighter, better than Halloween 2. I love this. Is Lance Guest for me, baby.
Really?
I had a feeling you would feel that. I didn't watch this movie. I'm like, there's something fucking Ian about this guy. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the beard, but I'm like, I bet you Ian likes this guy the best.
Look,
and I just had a feeling.
That guy took that script and said, I'm going to make this the best sequel to a shark movie ever.
Yeah.
And he made it, and he went with it, sir.
No, that's, first of all, that's a low bar of title to claim. That's like I'm third runner up, Miss Sandusky. Like,
well, but then also, like, we got to talk about this. Jaws is a movie. Let's be honest, folks. It's a movie that should have worked. It's the movie that...
but it fell into Spielberg's hands, and he made it gold. He took a basket,
But even then, it was a pocket full of miracles that it turned out the way it did. I mean, basically, Spielberg had a breakdown at the end of this movie. Wasn't even there on the last day of shooting. He jumped on a plane and bolted, and assistant director finished some of the shots. Like, he was forced to go into the editing room. He hated this movie and made his entire career. And so I honestly, I've always said this. I actually think the savior of Jaws was the editor. I can't think of her name right now. She's an old time editor at Universal, but I think what saves Jaws is the editing. Because if you had anybody else, imagine if the editing was done by some amateur, and I think you would have seen the shark look really fake. I think you would have believed this is not a real shark. I don't know what anybody says. Everybody always says the shark is fake. I think it looks real in Jaws. I've always bought
in the first film.
In the first film, I've always
in
bought.
The first film, I think it looks great. In the third film, it looks probably the worst looking shark, but it's still maybe my favorite sequel. I don't know. Like, The Revenge is spectacularly bad too. I mean, where do you guys rank? Between 3 and 4.
Oh, I'm team 3. Don't you?
You're team 3? 3 over 4. Okay, so you take 3
for
over 4.
As cheesy as 3 is, I still probably would take 3. Just I mean, just for the fact that it reveled in its cheesiness.
I could see that. It went for it. I've never seen a movie that probably had so much money thrown at it that still looks that bad.
I mean, the 3D alone probably
that's something that's very
lot.
memorable about 3, I guess. Unique. What about you, Melanie?
And Louis Gossett Jr.
Oh, of course. Who doesn't love?
I mean,
we going to shut down the park.
I haven't watched 3 and 4 in so long. I guess I always kind of preferred 4 only because Lance Guest is in it, and I always thought he was super cute.
Because this time it was personal?
Yes.
She gets it. She gets it. Melanie gets it.
All right.
He's not Dennis Quaid. I always was confused. I will admit that as a kid, I didn't understand the politics of Hollywood. I was always like, well, why isn't that Dennis Quaid? Like, where's Inner Space?
Well, that's an interesting question. Does 4 invent the retcon? Because it's like they never worked at SeaWorld, you presume, because there's the Brody boys in 3, right?
Yeah, it's the Brody boys,
is,
but that's the thing. They kind of basically, in a weird,
retcon.
They didn't say it that it was a retcon. They just kind of did it that way.
We're just gonna ignore that shit, which is
because Sean,
which is as retcon as you could get in the 80s.
Because Sean doesn't want to go in the water because of the stuff in 2. Yet,
so it's a sequel to 2.
But it's not though, because Sean is the captain of a police chief at Amity, and he's going in a boat. Like it doesn't.
I mean, there's a lot of things that are like timeline weird. Not the weirdest, but like, 12 years after the first film, like they're like toddling little boys like are now grown men with like toddler children. Like that's a bit of a like maybe, but I don't know. I don't think so, Tim. But I mean shit. The fourth one, it does revel in its like, fuck it. Like we're gonna have telekinetic scenes, and Mrs. Brody's gonna be flashing back to shit that she wasn't there for, and shit from 5 minutes ago, and then other shit that she wasn't there for. It's just like, wow. It's just kind of lashing out. In
Roy Scheider was supposed to do a funeral scene, but you know how much he got? He got paid more for his picture being in 4 than he did for doing the first movie.
Wow.
What? No way.
Yeah.
Like
I never
residuals.
heard that.
Yeah.
Residuals?
Yeah. Like, because they used his picture and he's like, you have to pay me this.
Wow.
Wow. Well, that's one way to fuck. I heard Michael Biehn got like more money to be in Alien 3, like with like a scan of his face at the beginning.
Yeah.
Than he did.
Yeah.
To do Aliens or whatever, or like just as much money or some shit. So it's like, hey, they're gonna do it either way, so might as well get paid, right?
Well, you work out a better deal.
But that's what I'm saying. Like these movies, it really like, they can be classified almost just as universal B movies. But
high budget,
for sure, Jaws is a B movie in a way.
But look, you don't have Cocaine Bear without Jaws being in this universe. You don't have, you really don't. Like Corman even said it. Roger Corman said it when he saw Jaws. He said, crap, the studios figured out my formula. It's sad that he went on to go do Piranha, because
I love Piranha.
Which Piranha's great, but Piranha literally Jaws
and
is
that
a
gives
Roger
you James
Corman
Cameron.
movie. It is a Roger Corman movie, but with millions of dollars, and it works.
To me as a kid, Piranha was more like was scarier. Like to me, like it, like a lot of it was like, oh, you could, like it just reminded me like I can go fishing with my uncle in a river and potentially see piranhas. Like
I mean, I get that. Yeah, you're not going to see a shark if you're not in the ocean.
Yeah,
blah 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 blah. But to
like I was definitely afraid to go fishing again after watching Piranhas.
I mean, it's one of those things, that's what a horror movie's supposed to do. Psycho's supposed to make you afraid to take a
Even
shower,
Richard Pryor made me scared of piranhas.
All right. Well, we are well past pitch
man.
time. We should get to the pitches. Before we do, though, there are a few in the live chat and some things that I forgot to mention before. Dustin Nino says, I went on the Jaws ride at Universal in the 90s. It was way badass. Yes. Alex Bonafonte says, I saw Jaws on the Universal tour in 89. Also at Universal that year, the Miami Vice live show. Ever travel back in time. I know
that would have been
where I'm going.
so
that
good.
Sounds amazing.
They should just make a VR experience of that time.
Also in the chat, asked, is Jaws 5 coming out? I would not bet on it, but you never know. Who knows? Maybe we'll spin some masterful pitches that word of mouth work their way to Universal here tonight. But also Oscar, speaking of pitches, Oscar Toronzo has pitched as a genetically engineered shark, smart and Wi-Fi implanted, takes vengeance, fueled by cocaine it takes from the cartel submarines. Mark Wahlberg and Jamie Foxx are in it. Music by Rihanna.
I'm telling you,
I'm not gonna lie, I would fucking watch the shit out.
They're already doing it. Look, Asylum's doing Meth Gator. I mean, like, look, you're gonna get a shark. You're gonna get a
like
shark.
The new is that the new thing now?
Yes, Cocaine Bear
like,
made millions.
I watched that Gatoroid versus.
It's gonna be like Quaalude Quail and shit like that. Fucking.
See, but
DMT
that's the thing. That's the thing. Like you can't. You cannot make a legit movie like this anymore because it's just reality. Is like sci-fi has done like so many of these movies.
Look, but let's be honest. The most boring of them all will be Dope Sloth. So
I can't say I saw that.
Cocaine Sloth might be interesting though, to see a sloth finally moving fast.
Oh man,
I don't know.
Only if it was
you're probably right.
You're actually, damn it, Chris, that's actually a good idea.
I would fucking love that. I would love to see a sloth running at the
Melanie.
The claws coming out. Just
what
swinging.
Am I doing here? Okay, so this is like back when we did our Twister episode. We have the same exact fucking problem now. Back when the first Jaws came out, just seeing a shark was enough, you know? You don't even have to see it for most of that first movie. Very effective. That will never work again. Like, audiences are well past that point in time. We live in a world like, just like, you know, having a Twister was enough in 1996. It's not enough now. Now we have ones with sharks coming out of them. Just like having a shark is not going to be enough, because you have to have fucking you know, like, we literally have these movies where people are sawing their way out of the bellies of sharks. And, you know, again, it does all go back to Jaws, but like, there's got to be a path to get Jaws back to being the king of its own world. You know, there's whole subgenres of movies. There's like, how many gator movies are there? There's probably like 25 gator movies that are just Jaws with a gator.
And I just saw like a real life video of a gator eating this old lady and her dog.
There's a bunch of movies that are like just a killer bear in the woods, and it's just like Jaws but a bear, you know. Just how do we make the cheap version of this, you know?
Well, so first off, you got to have Richard Dreyfuss. I refuse. I think one of the biggest mistakes of Jaws. Well, one of the biggest mistakes of Jaws too.
Well,
I think
Spielberg's involved. You can get Dreyfuss.
I'm sure they wanted him. I'm sure
he said no because Spielberg wasn't doing it. That was why he said no.
There you go.
And he was doing Goodbye Girl, so the Oscar thing was in the you know, so he had gotten too big, which is understandable. But I do love the fact we did kind of get a Jaws sequel with him from the Piranha remake, you know, where he gets eaten right at the beginning. So I mean, it's kind of like I at least got that in this universe. You know?
I love me some Piranha.
Wow, Mickey's just all about
even like the newer ones, like Jerry O'Connell. Oh, he was awesome in the Piranha movie.
That's what I'm saying. I agree.
3D.
I agree with you, Chris. I think that it's almost like if James Cameron was going to remake Jaws, it would have to be on an Avatar level experience.
Well, if he did it would have piranhas in it too.
He made Piranha too, so yes.
You know that, right, Mickey?
Yes.
Yeah, he directed Piranha 2.
Okay, all right. I was like,
that's why I said if he made a Jaws, piranhas would be.
Well, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I almost. One is I would love if they did if they I don't know if remaking is the right word, but it's like if you basically do the kind of the same story.
Well.
But it's like, I would want practical effects. That was my whole thing. Like, I don't want a digital shark. I
agree.
In 2023, could you do a practical shark movie?
My roommate was saying, like, it'd be cool now to see a shark like shore itself and be flopping around, and you know, I was like, well, that'd be very tough to not have it look hokey, you know, because that's the type of thing they do in like deep blue sea, and they have to cover it up with more splashes because the CG looks so terrible and weightless and stuff, you know. Cool thing about the practical stuff is it looks like it has weight to it, because it does have weight to it. It's a very hard thing to fake. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, with Twister, we came up with the helicopter thing, and like, or like, you know, the arrow thing, flying planes, dropping stuff into the top of Twisters instead of up the bottom, you know, to be able to like stop them or something. We were, you know, a little loose on it, but you know, there's only a half an hour to come up with to solve that problem. No, like, how do you
I just like you said, up
do you have
bottom.
multiple sharks? Do you have, you know, what is it that you have to have some giant prehistoric shark, you know, that's usually not the way that
I was also almost going to say could you do a prey version of Jaws? You know, could you do the new Predator movie where they took the Predator and did a time frame thing, and so, but even then it's like, well, you know, the Shallows was kind of a mini version of Jaws in
open water.
I think if you do
open
that,
water,
you're not making a Jaws movie, you know. I know it sounds weird.
No, it's true. I agree. Yeah,
you're not, you know, like, it worked for Predator. I just don't think it would work for Jaws, you know. Yeah. Part of Jaws like always has to have crowds of people getting fucked up by sharks, or sharks, you know, going after water skiers, or some, you know, innocent happy-go-lucky people.
Oh yeah, but like, I mean, like the newer Piranha, they, like, you know, they were attacking, like, you know, they were like partying on boats and stuff like that in the water and stuff like that. So if you had Jaws could be, I mean, it's in Florida, you're partying on boats and stuff, and
what if there's like, you know, a park?
He makes it personal. He wants to join the party.
The way I think to try and make it real is to just sort of think about like you know, logistically, shark attacks are on the rise because we are draining the ocean of the food supply for sharks. We're like, you know, fishing and killing all its fucking food, so it's coming closer to the shore and eating more people. If you take that and you sort of increase it with some Terry Silver type of character who pollutes some area of water and it pisses off a whole bunch of sharks or something, he like, you know, cuts off their food supply and then they all head right for somewhere. I mean, you're like sort of starting to make it real, but it still doesn't have that wow factor enough to like, you know, how do you impress people with a shark? You know, it's just the way that you couldn't do like the original Halloween anymore, you know, which is a classic movie, but it's just like a blue suited guy in a white mask, you know, appearing, you know, fading into the light, you know, that's not gonna blow people's minds anymore.
I don't think you can. I mean, I don't really need another Jaws movie. Number one, but number two is I just don't think you could do it. I would like an animated Jaws movie.
I want all the non-Jaws movies to stop. Like just like the Exorcist thing. Like I'm almost fine that they're redoing it because it's like, all right, then maybe all the like Exorcist adjacent movies will stop. You know, like the Exorcism of Emily Rose and the, you know, I think there's been 100 of them, and like why? They're never going to be as good.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
Like, well, because you got Exorcist and you got Exorcist 3. Like,
because like Jaws, in a way, there was a hint of like this shit could really happen. But that's, you don't really think about that right now with like a shark attack. Like, yeah, it could happen. But, you know, if you're living in Jersey, I mean, the likelihood is like kind of slim. I mean, it could happen. I mean, we have.
Well, yeah, because who's gonna go in that water?
I'm not swimming in the fucking water. I don't even know how to fucking swim, so I'm not doing that anyway.
I'm not even gonna drink water in New Jersey. Let us go in the water.
Say, you know, it is like ridiculous.
Drink the tap water, you do end up like Toxic Avenger.
I don't know, Melanie. What do you think? How do you make like sharks exciting again in a movie?
Well, I mean, I definitely agree that you have to stick with the practical effects. And I
mean, it's like you go gorier, you know, to satisfy the horror people. Like you win a few points there, but maybe not enough, you know.
Gore is shockingly really not. I'm not a fan of it. Okay. I think it's an easy cop out when you don't know how to truly write and direct horror. I think anybody can kind of throw that in, but I won't go off on that tangent. Fuck Eli Roth. Anyway, but you know, yeah, I don't really know how you. I mean, you have again. I agree. Like, it would be super fun just having like Richard Dreyfuss back in it. But
that would be a lot of fun.
But you still have to do more than that, because look at like Jurassic World Dominion, where they brought everyone back and everyone was like, yeah, this movie still sucks.
Because the movie sucked in the first place.
Right. So I think, you know, having Richard Dreyfuss would be, you know, like part of it. And then maybe you can bring somebody back as like the living son of Chief Brody, since one of them got eaten in the harbor or whatever. But
it would probably have to be his grandson at this point. We're almost 50 years later.
Yeah,
which is crazy to me.
Lance, you bring back Lance Guest, and you look, you
I do love Lance Guest. I would be fine with Lance Guest coming back.
You right or wrong that they took out the interesting part that they took out from the original Jaws movie. If you ever read the book, you know, Chief Brody's wife and Hooper, Richard, they have an affair.
Yes, like, they do.
It is the weirdest part of the whole book. If you know, and
I was very excited to read the book when I was like 13. I was like, oh yeah, the Jaws novel, and I wasn't prepared for it.
Right? It's like, she's like,
what?
Jerk.
I was like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah,
what is happening in this?
Yeah, and Spielberg.
I just thought it was about a shark. Where's the shark?
He's just like, you got city hands, boy. You've been counting money all your life.
No, he's been counting Mrs. Brody's like freckles. Like the man is dirty in the book. Like You know, like it's
well,
but it's like
shout out to John Milius, because everything that you remember about him was probably written by John Milius in the original Jaws.
Well,
is uncredited. But
yeah,
that whole
famous...
USS Indianapolis speech, that's all John Milius. He wrote it like the night before they shot it.
See, that's what I thought Universal should have done. Like, instead of going on like Jaws 3, I really thought Universal should have just been like Jaws, Indianapolis. Like, I actually thought they should have told that
that's
story.
so obvious that I feel like they have to do that. And I could totally see that. If it's a prequel, it's got to be that, you know?
Well, we got a terrible version with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, it came out on, DVD early 2010s. It came out on DVD, and it's, but
what if, just hypothetically here, what if you did, and I've said this before, so my apologies, but what if you used like the Aliens template? Like, this time it's war, that approach. Like, you have people going down into like some cave somewhere there's a ton of sharks, and they literally have like scuba gear with armor and like some it's like a big fucking epic battle, a war movie, and then there's the Queen or something,
That's Deep Blue Sea.
Or you could have,
is that really what Deep Blue Sea is?
Yeah.
If you have Richard Dreyfuss, you can have Richard Dreyfuss, maybe like his grandkids or something like that. They go to Florida to for vacation, whatever like that, and they get fucking eaten by a shark. And now Richard Dreyfuss is like, fuck, I know how to handle sharks. This time it's personal. This time it's personal. This time it's personal. I'm gonna get this motherfucker. And he goes down there.
Totally, yeah. Sounds like Richard Dreyfuss would
this
say that.
time it's personal.
And then so he rounds up. He goes down there, and maybe he runs into your little Lance Guest, somewhere in a corner mumbling like, I saw a shark one time too. I remember that. And then he's like, damn right you saw a fucking shark. Get on this boat. We're gonna get this motherfucker. And then Lance Guest is on the boat with him. So now you got Richard Dreyfuss and Lance Guest with a picture of Roy Schneider on the fucking boat.
I want these mother effing sharks off this mother effing boat.
And you get Samuel Jackson in the movie. You get Samuel Jackson to do a speech about the great Murray Hamilton. Murray Hamilton.
A shark ate me.
Samuel Jackson can be the mayor now.
That would be fun.
He could be the Murray Hamilton.
Okay, but Chris,
we're not closing down this motherfucking suit.
Yeah. He's like, you want to close the motherfucking beach down
for the motherfucking 4th of July?
For a shark? Fuck that. I got Tupac. I got a hologram of Tupac playing. I got Snoop coming on this party. I'm like, we ain't shutting down shit. I got Spring Breakers on.
That's the lie.
Next thing you're gonna tell me is there's some motherfucking piranhas in the water. Fuck that.
All right. So I think the Brody line, I think the Brody stuff may be played out. Maybe it's time to pick up with Mario Van Peebles and Richard Dreyfuss, though. Because let the Brody people have their rest. They've been haunted for generations,
Well,
don't you cut out my Lance Guest. Don't you do that.
Mario Van Peebles and Lance Guest and Richard Dreyfuss on that boat.
Just like the All-Star.
Okay,
it's the full-on Mario party.
And Melanie, don't get mad at me, but do you bring back Dennis Quaid? Because Dennis Quaid will sell the marquee more than
he won't. Nobody cares about Dennis Quaid.
Tell us how you really feel.
I love Dennis Quaid, but I agree.
It's
that's
nothing
not personal
against Dennis Quaid, but Dennis Quaid, you don't put his name on a marquee and people come running.
Well, not alone.
You put
Randy's. We don't live in that
put Randy's
time
instead. Now, hear me out.
We found Randy Quaid.
They did good. Well, that's because that.
Well, no, they haven't found him. No, he's still in Canada, hiding out from the mountains.
Yeah, he's got a lot of problems right now.
Hear me out. If you shoot the movie somewhere where Randy Quaid can be there, what about Randy Quaid as like a Hooper type character now?
That's crazy.
I'd rather
okay.
not. No.
I'd rather
Let's
not.
just keep the Quaids out of it.
Let's just keep the Quaids.
Okay.
All right, no
But
Quaids,
Chris,
no Brodies.
Now, Chris, you gave me an idea. You talked about the alien thing, right? Alien point. Like, okay, so Ridley Scott came back, did Prometheus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So years later, all these years later, he came back to the world that he kind of created.
Right.
Imagine, Spielberg's just recently talked about this. He wants to make scary movies again. Can you imagine if Spielberg did the Indianapolis story? And I know they've wanted him to do it. He's been approached to do it before. But Spielberg today doing the Indianapolis story, where you get a young Quint as you could, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix could be Quint as a young, Army World War II guy. I mean, you could have anybody in that role, but that would be an interesting.
So glowing recommendation for Joaquin Phoenix.
Well, I'm just saying.
Get anybody.
Get the guy who made Jaws to do basically what, Chris, you're talking about, the aliens approach, which is the Indianapolis is a lot of sharks in the water, but under that Spielberg magic, that Spielberg talent of a filmmaker who really can shoot a movie.
I think as long as it's in 3D and someone has a psychic connection to one of the sharks,
what if
then I think it'll work.
These sharks have chips?
Scum.
What if these sharks got injected with chips in their heads, right? And it was to research sharks, to track them, this and that, whatever the case may be. And then you had, like, I don't know, Gene Simmons or William Dafoe, like program these sharks to attack
Simmons
people.
Or Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, because Gene Simmons.
Do you put those two in the same
Because I just watched Runaway the other day for again, and Gene Simmons was the bad guy programming these robots to attack people, and
first off,
Magnum PI had to go after him.
First off, we all have to thank this man for acknowledging Runaway. You beautiful bastard.
I'm saying.
Like, that is a forgotten gem.
If we're gonna just like get crazy, then it should just be Miami Vice, like Jaws, Miami Vice.
That's literally Cocaine Shark. You literally just did Cocaine Shark.
I'm just saying, maybe some rich millionaire,
neon,
some rich millionaire wants to take over this beach or some shit like that, and so he's trying to scare the people off. Whatever the case may be. So he gets these sharks programmed to start attacking, whatever like that, to try to do this. And, then you got to get like Richard Dreyfuss and Lance Guest and Mario Van Peebles in a boat to try to take this guy down. Because in the process, they kill Richard Dreyfuss's grandkids.
Man, just no reprieve for anybody here.
And in the process, they kill Richard Dreyfuss.
It's like,
well, that's how you get them.
Eat like 100 babies, right?
That's how you get them on the beach. You get them because you make it personal.
I do.
You took one of mine, I'll take two of yours.
I do like the idea of it almost being like a prequel type thing with the Indianapolis story.
Yeah,
I think that would actually be.
If you want to go legit and make a good movie.
Sure.
Sorry, we're not too legit to quit, Mickey.
Sorry,
Well, I think honestly, like,
I'm trying to give the people what they want.
Well, I think these days that's really the only way you could get another Jaws movie made, is if you were like, what is the most like a legit avenue that we could approach this from? And I think that would be it.
Well, because you'd have to slap, you got to do something where you slap Jaws on there. I mean, you got to have a reason to say Jaws. You can't.
Steven Spielberg presents Jaws.
Christopher Nolan. Here's what they should do. They should just have Christopher Nolan and Tom Cruise do it, because they'll be like, I won't do it unless he can be really eaten by a real shark and really die on
that
screen.
look, hey,
Steven Spielberg presents Jaws
Redemption. CGI. There's not even a dummy shark. We're only using real sharks. Can you
imagine Christopher Nolan doing that? He really would put actors in with real sharks just to film it in 70 millimeter.
Exactly.
High def film.
I just thought it would be tremendous to see an actual baby fed into a shark on screen.
Like, that would be unbelievable.
Those guys are nuts.
And Leo is totally down for it.
Well, I think you could. I think you also too. You could always take as sad as it is, but it's kind of like what we do these days. You could make a really legit sequel by retconning all of the Jaws sequels, all the other Jaws sequels, and making it a direct sequel to the original.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Sean's not dead.
It's been
Brody's,
50 years.
They never worked at SeaWorld.
And he's back. Yeah.
And he's back somehow, scarred up.
Is Roy Schneider dead?
Well, there's no way. Well, that would probably be the biggest anomaly, is that like
where's Roy?
Even outside of well, I'm talking about the shark and a shark's lifespan. What is a great white's lifespan?
So they can live, they think, to about 70-ish years.
I thought it was 200.
And they get to full size around 15 years.
Well, the shark was pretty dead at the end, so I don't know if you could realistically be like, it's the same shark. Or, you know, it just turns out he just had to take a nap after getting blown up. I don't know.
It was a
it's
female.
A Dr. Loomis. It's a Dr. Loomis Halloween 2 thing. Like, oh, he's somehow.
No, you can do it. It's a female shark that you have the head exploded. It's from the water. Babies come out of it.
Babies come out of the head?
No, just the body. Like, you know, like the you know, like
they just swim out ready to kill.
I mean, come on, that'd be a cool shot. Yeah, it's bloody water, and the shark kind of comes out. You know, just through. That'd be good. And then it's like,
well, there are certain breeds of shark that can live to be 398 years. They think so. You could do some maybe Jurassic Parkings of the DNA or something that wound up. You make some bigger fucking great white shark than ever before, and that sort of a queen alien type.
Or you make
thing.
a hybrid
at the end of the movie, the final
shark.
What's that?
You make a hybrid piranha shark.
You
just want piranhas.
I can't wait till we do a piranha.
I would rather a piranha sequel.
When we do the piranha episode, I'm just going to talk about Jaws to balance it out. But I think that we've sort of put Jaws back on the shelf of at least we can all agree that the USS Indianapolis is probably the best way to go to make a legit movie. However, there are other avenues to go if you want to make fun schlock. What is the Jaws franchise versus what is Jaws 1? Well, that's up to all of you at home. But that being the case, before we wrap it up, is there anything you guys have got coming up in the works you want to let people know about? Anything on the Spooky Picture Show, articles, albums? Silence.
I mean, we release a new episode of the Spooky Picture Show every month. For those who don't know, that is a horror podcast that I am one of 4 hosts on. It's a lot of fun. And it's all people, that I've been really good friends with for a while. So there's a lot of, it's personal. And yeah, no, I just think it's a fun podcast. The episodes are a little longer, which is why we only do 1 episode a month. But if you have a long commute or something like that, I think it'll keep you entertained. And Angela, the Sleepaway Camp documentary will hopefully come out while I'm still alive, but that's to be determined. So
well, we always have to ask. So we
and
appreciate
you
can
listen to the Spooky Picture Show wherever you listen to podcasts. So if it's iTunes, Spotify, any of that, it's available there.
Google Podcasts.
That's way all you VCR fans that keep asking about the Angela doc, that's where you're going to find out first. So be sure to tune in. Mickey, Ian, anything coming up with you guys?
Last week we released an article on Fandom Spotlite for the B Movie Challenge for the classic Roger Corman film The Wasp Woman. So do check out that article, and pretty soon you will get an article from B Movie Challenge on the hippest of all hippest movies, High School Caesar, Daddy-O. So stay tuned for that.
I actually am very much looking forward to that. That's one that slipped through for me, and like you just brought back a Phantom memory, so I can't wait to read about it. Mickey, getting closer.
Mixes are getting done. It's going to take some time, but the mixes are getting done now.
Every day. Next week it'll be mastering.
Is it hard to come up with the title of the album?
No, the title's already
they already
put
got it,
out
okay.
there. So that's already, I mean, like Rick already pretty much came up with the title already. So
Yeah, they're going with Mac Daddy Mickey Torres, obviously.
yeah.
that or McDouble. Well, at any rate, you Fandom fans might want to come back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. when the VCR gets its mojo back for our Austin Powers episode. As always, if you enjoyed this video, the best way to help is to smash that like button and leave a comment telling us what movie or TV franchise that you want us to cover on a future episode of VCR Redux. And since you're already doing that, you might as well go ahead and like, subscribe, and follow Fandom Spotlight, the Hollow 9 Network, and Pop Culture Punk. Till then, back up those Betamax, rewind those Laserdiscs, and we'll see you at the movies.
See ya.
What?